we have very contrasting surroundings right now. You're in Thailand wearing a t-shirt. I'm in Wales wearing a jumper, and it's raining outside, so I know where I'd rather be.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, do you know what? Every day is a gift somewhere at some point, and even on the darkest of days, there's just remember above the clouds, the sun is there. Even though I've had it my end today, it's still there for you as well. Just sometimes the weather is the weather, especially in Wales, right?
Don't I know it? Don't I know it? Well, that sort of mindset, that's exactly where I wanted to start, really. There's a line very early on in your book that I absolutely love. You say, if it's tragedy porn you're after, maybe go elsewhere. And man, I think this sums you up to a T. Can you talk us through that mindset and attitude you have? Because I thought that was a brilliant line.
Cool. So anybody who's seen my documentary or knows my journey knows that in 2009, I was living the best life as an individual could ever have. I grew up as a gymnast, and then I transferred that skill set into the stunt industry. And I was working on the greatest kids film franchise in history, Harry Potter. I started on the first Harry Potter and had the best I was 17 years old and up to 25. I had the best time ever. And then in 2009, it all went horrendously wrong. And that was a stunt accident through no fault of my own, resulting in me breaking my neck. So I'm a high level quadriplegic, meaning that I've got basically very limited function left in one arm. When the accident happened in 2009, I had a bit more function, but I've since experienced some complications, and I'm still on a neurological journey of decline. So nobody knows where it's going to end up. But one thing's for sure was that day, that moment, that was life changing for me and for everyone around me, everyone who loved me, and everyone who I considered, even a close relationship. With breaking your neck, there's nothing it doesn't affect. Nothing at all. It is every aspect of your life. And I was in hospital and trying to work out where I'm going to be and accept the paralysis. And I realized that how I was handling it had a direct effect on the people around me. So for a long time I was putting a brave face on, and I still do put a brave face on, and I've found that what's worse than the pain that I live with is seeing my loved one's eyes in pain and the pain in my loved one's eyes. So I learned early on that it's my responsibility to say to people that, okay, this has happened, but I'm alive. I'm actually alive. I could have so easily not made it out of that. And especially with all the surgeries and all the changes that I've gone through, every day I'm thankful for the breath that I've got. I know people that literally can't breathe on their own without a ventilator. And then I also was in hospital and met people that had gained their spinal injuries through horrendous circumstances, whether that is a hate crime or a terrorist attack. And I went into hospital as a stuntman. I owned that reality, and I owned it very quickly. And I felt a fraud to say, why me? And of course I get those moments, of course, like even out here, I've had some issues that have arisen at home that have been really hard to deal with. But that why me attitude, that poor me, that is feel sorry for me, that it's all negativity, and I have to always put a spin on it. And like that's the gift of who I am. Really, is I'm able to be that person still. And someone asked me recently, out of all the things you've done in your life, which is not a bad lot, what are you most proud of? And I said, I broke my neck and it never changed who I am. And I can still say that to this day. I've had some difficult news at home and it's not changing my mindset. I'm going through more pain and loss and function on my right side. It's not changing my mindset. And that's that is something I'm really proud of. And do you know, like Eckhart Tolle says it, it's like you only find yourself through adversity. And I've been through and trodden on the road of adversity for a very, very long time. From being a small kid, being a competitive gymnast, being a stunt performer, being a quadriplegic, and now being a grown man, having to find myself accountable for all my failures and misgivings, and to constantly realize that it's not the destination, it really is the journey, you know. And as you know, like pain is inevitable, whether you like it or not. Physical, emotional, whether you like it or not, it's inevitable. But you can choose to suffer. Yeah.
And I think that goes really hand in hand with a lot of the messaging in this book. I think one of the key takeaways I've seen through, reading the book myself and reading all the messages I've seen of people who have read and reviewed the book, that the key message a lot of people seem to be taking away is the idea of being present.
Yeah. To be here now, to realize, like, none of us escape this. No one gets out of here alive. So
Mm.
to see the day, to spot the weather, to be present with and by practicing gratitude in every way, you can be present. Now, I am a very lucky human being. Um, Look at the background of where I'm sitting. I'm on holiday. I'm in Thailand. I'm in less pain. I'm very fortunate, and I know that the pressures of living in capitalism and understanding, like all of those things, can jump on top of everyone. But I will be able to get present anywhere as long as I can listen to my inner voice. And I found presence in hospital when I've been fighting for my life. And I found presence out here when I've been too hot and like needed, I've been able to find those brief moments. Now it's fleeting. You're never going to achieve it 24 hours a day, 365. You're just not. We are all fallible human beings. We are all capable of every range of emotion. And God knows I am. You know what I mean? Like, it's big time. But to be present in the way that you go to bed every night thinking, what did I do today and how can I be better tomorrow? Or even if you're, going through illnesses or whatever. I've been at a stage where I've literally had to think of, like, get to the next 10 seconds of breathing, get to the next minute of breathing, get to the next hour of breathing, and try to see all of those things as a goal. And being present and being able to focus myself in that way is a gift that I learned from gymnastics, from the stunt industry, from the men that loved me to being the man that I am, from my family, from everyone. So I'm a very lucky human being because of the adversity that has taught me to be the man that I am, and I'll take it. You know what I mean? So,
I think that's a beautiful message and beautiful advice for everyone, no matter what circumstance anyone finds themselves in. And one thing you touched on there was lessons through earlier on in your life and how they still impact you today, gymnastics being an example. And these are things I want to get into. But we share a favorite movie in common, Three Ninjas. Now,
ah,
I remember
love it.
when I was younger, I remember my granddad used to put this film on for me, and I remember it inspired me. I wanted to live an action-packed life. I wanted to be the fourth ninja.
Yeah.
I just don't think I had had the guts personally to, live this high adrenaline life. But I know you were a daredevil even as a child. What do you think compelled you to take risks and chase thrills at such a young age?
I think being small, never be the strongest, the hardest, the fittest, the anything, but I could always be the bravest. And in a world where masculinity is a dirty word, and it's, on all of a generation of kids are trying to work, the young boys are trying to work that out. I found my sense of masculinity from being able to see my fear, face it and overcome it. And then like learning that my advice for any young person watching this is do something scary every day. Do something that's hard every single day, whether that's exercise, whether that is breath work, whether that is having a hard conversation with yourself or whatever. But just do something scary every day, because you find out what you're made of when you're on the fringes of difficulty. And yeah, gymnastics was the perfect sport for me to grow up in. Small, brave, and I was able to turn some of the adversity that I was navigating, whether that would be bullies at school or just growing up in a house full of with an older brother. And after we watched Three Ninjas, we'd have a dojo fight. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and even with my little brother and stuff. So I'm very, I don't know, when it comes to fear, I've always been able to handle it, and it paid dividends on all of my journey. And again, fear like pain, inevitable, inevitable. And everyone talks about mental health crisis and anxiety and all that lot, and I still suffer from it. You'll go through it. I just find my coping strategy, and I just know that my conviction is that you've been here before. You know what I mean? And that's why by doing something hard every day, or by, even when the fact that I hold my breath, you know what I mean? I do breath work and I push to hold my breath, because one day my journey might result in me having struggling breathing independently. So instead of sitting back and letting that happen, I'm like, nah, I'll take control of it. And that's why in my swimming pool at home, I hold my breath on a scuba bottle, and 4 minutes and 25 seconds, which isn't too
Wow.
bad for a quadriplegic. Now, I don't have any intercostal muscles, my rib cage don't lift, but my brain's going, you're not breathing, you're not breathing, you're not breathing, you're not breathing. And then something in there goes, you've got this. You know what I mean? And it's that sense of control gives me my sense of self sometimes, So I wouldn't advise everyone to do it. It's not something, it's something that you have to work on. You have to focus with. You have to tread carefully. But I can't exercise. I can't run away my problems. I can't go on a treadmill, but I can breathe today. So I was asked on a podcast recently, what's my favorite noise? And it's breath. Whether that's the breath of a child that's being comforted, whether that's my nephews, or the breath of my partner in my ear as she feels comfortable in our embrace, or my own breath underwater where the bubbles go. So yeah, and I'm a music nut. I love it. It's like I have a soundtrack to every moment of my life, but I take breath over all of it.
Yeah, that's a really impressive time. I remember a couple of years ago, I was doing like an introductory scuba course, and to pass the first test, you had to like hold your breath for something like 45 seconds. And I remember struggling to do that. So 4 minutes is crazy good.
Yeah, but you know what? You have to go into it like in a safe environment, like with confidence in your inner voice being able to be controlled. And even just breath work itself, just box breathing, it takes concentration. And when I get like overloaded with anxiety or, life in general, or I'm a bit nervous, I'll do that. I'll box breathe. I'll go 5 seconds in, hold for 5 seconds, 5 seconds out, wait for 5 seconds. And I'll just make that box. Now, most people, you should start in a triangle: 5 in, 5 out, 5 in, hold for 5, 5 out. Yeah. And then when you get good, do a box. And then when you start with 3 seconds. And then when you get really good, you can go up to 10. You can, and I do it in a very hot environment at home as well every day. I'm fortunate enough to have a really good shower space where I can raise my core temperature, because it's something I can't control. And I do my box breathing whilst also sitting in 48 degrees. And I make myself uncomfortable. And yeah, that again, it's all like whenever the hardships come, that conviction goes, "Oh, you've been here before, you'll be all right."
Mm. Your approach when you were describing that then reminds me of the sort of approach you explain in the book, the approach you took to stunts, in the fact that to build up to them, you would break them down into sort of micro parts and slowly add elements until you reach the final.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's gymnastics moves. You have to like break each element down to its smaller part and then put them all together, and then you're able to form a backflip. You're able to do this. And stunt work exactly the same. You break it down. And all of those things turns out the world's best rehearsal for being a quadriplegic. Like navigating the world the way I do is really hard. You know, there's very few people with a disability like mine that would even consider going to Thailand. But I break it down to its smaller parts. Even the building that I sit in, I got the architectural plans. I looked at the step access. I looked at the shower size. I looked at the elevator size. I looked at all of those things on the architectural plans, and I was like, "Oh no, that all I need is a little wooden ramp there. All I need is that door moved there. All I need is that put in place." And I'm able to be here now. My partner's also quadriplegic, and we tried to go out and watch the sunset at the beach the other day, and it's carnage. There's no curbs, there's no flat roads. Everyone parks a scooter on the side. It's, you know what I mean. It's risky, but up here where I am, the environment I've created and I planned and broke down meticulously means that both of us could feel safe and feel present enough to really feel each other and embrace and love. And trust me, that is not easy. We have to navigate that with 24-hour care. We have to navigate that with, you know, orthotic binders that need putting on, with managing skin tolerance, with you name it. Like every surface I interact with, I have to look at it and think, like, how is that a risk for me? But all of those things, it can either get on top of you or you can rise up and see it as a challenge. And I see it as
It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. And, you're talking about gymnastics there, and how it sort of prepared you for, the person you became and all these traits you have now. But for your career as a stuntman specifically, it's clear gymnastics prepared you physically for that career. But I wonder how it prepared you mentally for that career, because I looked at some of the behind the scenes of what these gymnasts go through, and it seems like a really mentally demanding sport.
yeah, well, it's a sport where it's all on you. You know what I mean? Like my coach used to say to us, if you cheat on your conditioning, you're only cheating yourself. You know what I mean? Like, do one less chin up or one less leg lift of the 30 in these tasks to do. You're only cheating on yourself. And I learned that you only gain something through hardship. So you only get better being stronger by, working your body and stretch. You only gain more flexibility by working through the pain barrier. So that in turn applies to the stunt industry. I mentioned that in the book, I mentioned it takes 6 sports to like a national competition level to be a stunt performer. And it's hard, and rightly so, because it's a hard job and you need to be trained across many elements, because you can turn up one day and they're like, right, you're having a sword fight today. Right, tomorrow you're going to be underwater for a whole day on scuba gear. The next day we're going to set you on fire. By the way, the day after that, you're going to fly to Tunisia and you're going to be stuck in a place and you're going to feel lonely and alone. And then, we're going to dye your hair. And you know what I mean? Like all of these things that would be a huge thing to someone as just on its own is a everyday occurrence for someone in the stunt industry. And pressure makes diamonds. I've been under a lot of pressure. And even now, I'm under a lot of pressure. I got some adverse pressure put on me at home, just with support network and care staff and all of those things, and having to navigate from afar, whilst I should be on holiday, what it's like to go home and potentially face the idea of not having someone to get me out of bed. Like think of that. Like if I sit and I can't empty a catheter bag, I can die. If I, have a bowel accident and no one's there to support me, I could get a skin infection and put myself in, you name it. Like all of those things can run exponentially in my brain. But instead of let them do that, I just say, all right, what's within your control? How you react to something. And how I reacted to my news at home is I'm very proud of it, despite it being emotional, despite it being triggering, despite it spiking my anxiety about my vulnerability, despite it being sad that it is the end of a certain relationship in my life. All of those things, even though they're negative, I still will always try and spin them to a positive.
Yeah. That's a sort of very a stoic mindset in that, it's not how you control something, but how you respond to something. You can't affect what's happening, but you can certainly affect how you respond to it.
Yeah, we all open the news at the moment right now, and there's some nutter with orange hair just constantly spiking everyone's environment, like anxiety because of the way he's choosing to navigate running the free world. But you can sit there and focus and go into that, humanity's been through terrible, terrible things, and we're still here. You know what I mean? And just look up, remind yourself that we are just all made of stars. And I like the Carl Sagan saying on one blue dot, the pale blue fleck. It's like, look at that pale fleck of rock suspended in space in a beam of light. Like everyone you've ever known, ever loved, any, you know, king, queen, every winner, loser, every person that suffers, everything that we know as humanity is all just sitting there on this little tiny vulnerable rock in the middle of space. And if you can try and get your head around how big that is and be humbled by how lucky we are to be able to read words like his, or to get your head round that the stars that we see are already burnt out and the time that we are going through is only up to our own perception. Do you know what I mean? So I choose to try and see a gift every day, every single day, regardless of how hard it is. Just try. And I lose sight of it. There's no, I'm not perfect. I lose sight of it. I find myself angry. I find myself bitter. I find myself sad. I find myself vulnerable. I find myself scared. But I also find myself in that, in all of that, the full range of human emotion. Who wants to live a life where you just are like a level playing field? Give me the full wavelength, all the good bits, all the bad bits, all the good bits, all the bad bits. You know what I mean? I consider that more of a full life. Like it's more enriching than just tiptoeing through every day, making your decisions based on fear. Yeah, you're only living when you're nearly dying.
Well, that's actually another Stoic practice of cosmic perspective, I believe they called it, in which you take a step back and look at the bigger picture. I know it's something I've always done when I've had periods and bouts of anxiety. I like to watch those. I've seen those videos where it zooms in on a house and then it goes out and out until you're somewhere in the cosmos. That always helps me. And so that was kind of the next question I wanted to ask you, was how you sort of deal with negativity and terror, specifically in the sort of stuntman environment, because you give examples in the book of great stuntmen and women over the years who've been taken from this world too soon, and you acknowledge that this is the risk when you are in pursuit of that reward. And for someone like me who could never in a million years do what you do, how could you describe the ability to put that level of terror and negativity out of your mind when knowingly putting yourself in a really dangerous position?
Because it's really hard to describe, as everyone's process is different as a stunt performer, as an individual, as as all of us navigate full range of the human experience. But for me, I would say that it's always been reward. I remember going to the theatre as a kid and seeing my mum's emotional reaction to Les Mis. I remember going to see Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and seeing my dad's emotional reaction to the film that was being played out. I remember thinking, I want to do that. I want to have that effect. I want to be part of telling stories. And we've we've grown as a society, as a humanity, because of the storytelling process of, like, learned experience from every individual. Whether that is folklore or sitting around the dinner table and telling everyone about their day. And I like that I grew up on a film set, so my memories are in a 16:9 frame. And I like the fact that I find a lot of comfort that despite my hardships, many people are watching Harry Potter right now, and it's making them feel safe, comfortable. It's helping them escape whatever they're going through. And I'm very, very thankful that I'm part of that gift. And that's the gift of storytelling. And we all do it. We're doing it right now for your listeners. Like, I'm sharing perspective, you're asking me questions, we're telling stories, and it's all part of, like, giving something back. You know what I mean? Like, do you take something from the table, or do you bring something to the table? And right now we're bringing something to the table. So yeah, I'm very grateful for your time and for this platform to share my perspective.
Well, another area of sort of pressure is that, and you touched on it there, that this was or became a multi-million pound biggest movie franchise in the world. I grew up in my childhood, you couldn't escape it. I had Harry Potter birthday cakes, I had it all. It was everywhere you could look. So when you're dealing with something and working with something that is that big, is there another level of pressure that comes with it?
It wasn't at the start, but it ramped up towards the end. Absolutely. And I take my hat off to one of my best friends, Dan, to be able to shoulder all that and how he did, and the professionalism. And Dan, Rupert, Emma, all the cast. Like, they grew up. You guys got to watch them grow, and I'm very fortunate enough I get to watch them grow as adults. And I'm very extremely proud of who all of them have turned out to be. And we're all proud to be part of something. But the pressure definitely ramped up 100%. But in the early days, it was, and as you read in my book, we had some fun. And also, we made it a very closed family unit because they were kids. We created an environment where they could grow while shielding them from some of that outside pressure. And all the rock and roll stuff that you'd expect them to be doing, it was me doing it. All the sex, drugs, and sausage rolls, that was me doing it. And yeah, not enough sex, but far too many sausage rolls. Uh, but yeah, that's why in my book I explained that, I made mistakes trying to rebuild my life post injury. Whether that was trying to think, like, drive a car too fast, or expand my psychological mind with different substances and all that lot, instead of really accepting my reality. But all of those things go to making who I am today. The road that you've trod yesterday is the pathway that led you to today. You know what I mean? So you can sit there and keep shaming it, and focus on the negative. And sometimes those steps have been in puddles, and sometimes you've sworn, or you've got angry, and all of those things. But then sometimes those steps have been on a golden brick, and you've looked up and you've seen a rainbow, and you've looked at the stars, and you've gone, wow, how lucky am I to be here today? And yeah, that's the whole road of life, right?
There's a really interesting dynamic the way you describe stunt work in the book, and you say pain is profit. And there's this example you give where it's in that very famous chess scene in Philosopher's Stone where Ron sacrifices himself, and you said when you were doing that stunt that you nailed it first time and you were paid $1,000 for the attempt. But is the reality then that if that took you a couple of times to nail, then you would have been paid more for the stunt?
Absolutely, yeah. One take wonders are really great for the production, not really good for you as a stunt performer. And sometimes you want to be like, I'll take a few whacks and take an extra bit of cash on the way home. And but yeah, it's all of those things are negotiated beforehand. And obviously, my main priority was to do a good job. But sometimes a good job is also like a couple of stair falls instead of just one. You know what I mean? I was a zombie once and shot in the head and fell down some stairs. And I can't remember what film it was. And I was in London, and the stunt coordinator said it was like, we'll try and get you at least 3, but if you get 6, not a problem. He said that there's a budget for it. So I was like, all right, sweet. And he's like, look, you've been in the makeup chair since 4 a.m. getting all these spots and stuff put on your face. It was like, don't do it in one. Like, there's enough in the budget for 6 to take it.
That's amazing. There's one of the really interesting dynamics to your book, for especially for fans of the film, was your relationship with Daniel, as you mentioned, and I watched him in an interview earlier today, and he was describing you as an older brother at the time, the older brother he'd always wanted. And there's this great theme in the book of you sort of mentoring him and teaching him how to do minor stunts and sort of developing his agility and all this great work you did as a mentor to him. But what was your relationship like, say, on the first film, and how did it develop then 7 films later?
Oh, it was like first film, I was taking him to the stunt department, shutting the doors and letting him be a kid. And as a gymnast, I was also coaching young gymnasts myself as well. And I was teaching him how to somersault, getting him on trampolines, asking him to jump off the top of porta cabins on crash mats, all the things that would give an insurance company a nightmare. Like they'd have a faint. But it was important for me for him to have a space to play and grow. But just as important was for me as his stunt double to give him a skill set and to grow on his physical skill set so that I could not only mirror him, but I could be confident in what we could ask of him to do. So him being able to do a somersault off from a trampet, him being able to hold the weight of his body through his core muscles, all of those things became assets for him and for me so that we could create the action scenes in Harry Potter, what you see. I mean, we did some mad stuff with that. Mad stuff that you would never get away with, like holding him underwater and then all of a sudden letting him surface in like a ring of fire, and on Harry Potter 4, letting him slide 40 foot down a rooftop off of a wire, just dropping him. Like it's like a drop slide with trainers on. If those feet dig in, your bum hits your feet, you can snap your shin bones, but I knew his core muscles and I could tell him, look, when you do it, keep your legs up, and if your feet do tap, just lift them straight away. And that's all because of the foundation that I put in with him from such a young age. So he started off like my little brother, where we would play, and then Harry Potter 3, Harry Potter 4, 5, 6, those training sessions continued and we grew closer and closer. And I'm very fortunate to say he's one of my best friends today. So yeah, he's just a good egg. He's just a good human being. He's willing to stand up for things that he believes in. He's willing to support me. He's willing to, one of the greatest joys right now is seeing him welcome a new family into the world. And it's just like the happiness that I know him to be in right now is a gift that I absolutely think he deserves. For all of the stuff that he's had to tolerate, to come out the other side, the person that he is just testament to his folks, his friends, his support network, his partner. And I'm not going to say it because some people would say me, but I would, I'm just glad that a little bit of me contributed to the man that he is today.
Definitely. And I think this is and this is something you touch on in the book as well. It's like when you work on a film like Harry Potter, which everyone sort of considers to be, in terms of cast, a who's who of sort of British acting royalty. You have so many amazing legendary actors that you would have worked with. And one that a lot of people reflect on, and I've never, in all interviews I've done with people who may have worked with him, or things I've read, I've never heard a bad word said about Alan Rickman.
Oh, mate,
Um,
unbelievable.
what are your reflection on him?
Just an unbelievable human being, great actor, exceptional actor, and was part of. If I look back, was part of my formative process to wanting to be, in storytelling when it comes to Prince of Thieves and seeing my dad in that cinema that day, and then to be able to go on and work with him. And in the Snape outfit, it was very much in his method and in his space. But when he was out of costume, what a lovely man, and his legacy lives on through generations of young talent that he helped bring up, through even just the way he negotiated a certain contract for people that are on camera on those films. Like, I've been able to buy wheelchairs for people simply because Alan Rickman and the cast got together to negotiate a certain contract that entitled us to royalties, and that now is bought. I meet people in hospital, they can't take their kid to school, and I've been able to facilitate some money towards a wheelchair that's helped them be able to do that. So, yeah, again, a human being that brought a lot to the table. And yeah, he brought a lot to my life and continues to do so posthumously. I always say that wrong. Posthumously. What a gift of a man that Alan Rickman was. So, yeah, all good. All of them, all of the cast, they all contributed to uh, helping grow the acting talent of the kids around them, to help create an environment on set where we got to see their skill set and also share time with them. And what's better than to enjoy the passing of time? Well, I've enjoyed the passing of time with some pretty cool legends. So, yeah, very lucky.
Amazing. Well, back to some of the amazing stunt work you did, and this is more of a question just coming from the nerdy sort of Harry Potter fan in me, but I wonder, what was the most demanding film in terms of stunts? I'm guessing maybe Goblet of Fire, maybe?
Absolutely, yeah. You name it. Battling dragons, spending 4 months underwater. Yeah, the hedge scene that we filmed right at the start of the film, through the running hedgerows, the wire work that we expanded on, you name it. It was all of that in Goblet of Fire was a stuntman's dream. And not only that, I got to have the bad boy outfit on, didn't I? The tracksuit. I love it. It's like a proper Adidas tracksuit, and a little scamp from Romford walking around in this Adidas looking tracksuit with a cape on the top. I felt well cool. And then I'm a water baby, so spending 4 to 5 months on the water was just the best thing ever. Eating lunch in an underwater dive bell and having webbed feet and webbed hands on, and you name it. Like, it was brilliant. So yeah, Goblet of Fire. Yeah, and then after Goblet of Fire, I went out to Tunisia on a job, and then Slovakia on a job, and then I come back, and it was straight into Harry Potter 5 again. And I had this huge life experience outside the Harry Potter world where I got to jump into two different cultures that were vastly different from where I grew up. You land in Tunisia, that's a proper culture shock. But it was brilliant. And then between 6 and 7, I was on Prince of Persia when I was out in Morocco, and I still speak a little bit of Arabic today, and which is cool. It's really cool to be able to, and I'm talking a little 4 or 5 sayings. But yeah, all good. Yeah,
Amazing.
I say to anyone young, just travel, see the world, put yourself out there. Don't be scared and live in your little bubble and on your phone and your screen, and just the world's big and beautiful, and some days are going to be great and some days are going to be not so great, but you got to be willing to experience it all, to be able to get the best of the experience.
When you look back over the catalogue of great work you've done, not only on Harry Potter, but some of the other films, as you mentioned. And I know early on, maybe Lost in Space, another example. What is the one sort of stunt that you are most proud of to watch back and think, I nailed that one?
Oh, the Malfoy wand reaction on the Great Hall in the dueling sequence where I spun through the air and split my legs and landed in front of Alan, thankfully not hitting him. That was pretty technical. There was a stunt that never made it to the film, which is devastating, which was on Goblet of Fire, and it was Rafe Fiennes and all the Death Eaters, and he asks Harry to bow, and then we did have this really big wire stunt where he flings Harry across the room, which was me doing this unraveling, somersaulting wire gag that dropped me hard on the deck that I'd done a few times. And unfortunately, it wasn't deemed worthy. I think it was probably a little bit too violent for the film, so they cut it out. Yeah, that one I'd say, because I've got, Rafe as Voldemort in the full Voldemort's get up for the first time when he gets his full body, and then you had all the other Death Eaters there, and yeah, it was really cool to be on that set. Robert Pattinson was there as well, so yeah, that. And then I'd done a commercial for Mini. When Mini launched the convertible, they asked my stunt coordinator, is there any way of a stunt performer getting in the car in a really cool way to celebrate the fact that it's a convertible car? So I found myself jumping off of a trampoline over the back of the car, landing in the driver's seat and driving it off.
Wow.
All in one take, all in one shot. Yeah, and it was hard. I smashed my nuts up against the screen. Landed, hit the steering wheel, all right, thingy. So yeah, those wire gags and that mini gag for sure. And then last year I set my head on fire in a wheelchair, and I didn't even get my heart rate up. I was just like, it's the photo on the inside back cover of the book. But yeah, that means a lot to me, because someone approached me to submit a photo to the National Portrait Gallery. And they asked me, did I have any ideas? And I knew that it could be possible with my friends in the stunt industry. And I wanted to show that despite living with a broken neck, I'm still the same man that I always have been. Just someone willing to take risks to spark a conversation, to tell a story. And as you can see right there, that definitely should start this conversation. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I'm looking at you. That's amazing. So how did you set that up? What's the process of performing that one? That's
You put
amazing.
this gel over yourself first that is your protective layer, and that is sort of made up. It feels like when you're doing plastering or when you're doing wallpapering, that sort of consistency, and you put that on first, and then you put the petroleum spray on top, and then you light that. Then as long as the fire's going away, you're never going to get hurt. But don't try it at home, guys. I heard like
Definitely.
specialist stunt performers and specialist fire gel and all of those things were at my beck and call. So yeah, I don't encourage anyone to try and recreate that. That's for sure. Do not blame me for some young person going, oh, I can do that. No, you can't. You really need to prep it. You need to write, risk assessments. You need to understand that, that you've got the safest people around you to do it, and la di da di da. But yeah, that was a cool thing to do.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I don't think anyone will be trying. I mean, I when I was reading the book and I read some of the stunts you do, and I just remember thinking, wow, this guy's Superman. I don't even want to entertain the thought of trying these things. That's absolutely amazing. And what a powerful image that is, man. That is a beautiful image.
Cool. Yeah. And you know what? Like, you see that my body's in a different shape and my organs are below my rib cage and I've got a urine bag strapped in my legs. But I see my eyes in that photo and I see the old me. And yeah, I love it. It's cool.
Beautiful. I love talking about this mindset you have now, and really what I mentioned in that first question, your outlook on life now, and the way you're able to find gratitude. So part 2 of the book, and I encourage everyone to go and read it, but part 2 of the book begins with this really emotional chapter where you talk a lot about the internal thoughts you were having of having many last times on that day in January 2009. But you said that you made a point of of trying to never show those emotions to others during this period? What kind of weight does that take on you mentally? That must be really heavy.
Huge, yeah, and it still does to this day. Like, it's hard. It's hard. Life is hard for me. My existence is not easy. But it's okay to look in the past to learn from it, but you can't control what's gone before, and you can't control what's going in front, but you can control what's going on today, right now, this conversation, this space. I know that I was really protective of what Harry Potter means to people, and I still am. It's really is a beautiful thing, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. And I'm also just here and now, like just try and be here and now. And I get it. It's a lot easier for me to do that when I'm sitting in a t-shirt at 28 degrees at night, a nice place on the other side of the world, and someone might be watching this at home and it's freezing cold and they've got to go to work and they're having rows with their partner and or their kids getting bullied at school or whatever. But realize that today is all you have control over. So if you can find gratitude in anything, then try and find gratitude to just be here today. Like, we're alive. We're just monkeys on a rock spinning through space. You know what I mean? Like, get over yourself. So, yeah, that's, right. It is what it is, isn't it?
I think the quote in your book that sums this up is, you said, I trained my thoughts on the present because that's the only thing I had. And this idea of you being able to find gratitude in some of the most traumatic times in your life, one that sticks out to mind is you mentioned the story of hearing the story of Will Pike and how that helped you find gratitude. I'm curious as the mentality of how that story helped you find gratitude in what was arguably the most traumatic period of time you went through.
He was my candle in a dark place. I'm lying on my back, just recovering from a big spinal fixation surgery, reassessing myself. My loved ones had left my bedside. I'm sitting there sobbing at night, just really feeling sorry for myself. And throughout the day, through the haze of morphine and painkillers, I'd heard Will explain his story that he was caught up in the Mumbai terrorist attack. In my forward state, I was obviously turning it into an action movie. But I was in that really dark place that night, and Will heard me sobbing. I couldn't see him. I couldn't look at him. I was just looking at the ceiling. He couldn't see me. He couldn't look at me. He was just looking at the ceiling. And he said, "You're not alone, mate." And I thought, wow, you've been through hell and back through no fault of your own, and you're still willing to be there for me. And I'll be eternally grateful. And I tried my best to honor that with everybody I interact with. And sometimes I'm going to get it wrong. I've got it wrong with the certain situation that I'm going through at home at the moment. I've made mistakes. And now it's up to me how I redo those mistakes and how I go back and reevaluate myself on that. But those mistakes are only me feeling a loss of control and not realizing that another party is also going through the same emotion. So I sit back now and I think, well, right, that's done. How am I going to react to it? So Will that day was like, that's done. How am I going to react to it? There's someone over there scared. Let me tell them that I'm there for them. And what a gift that man is. I'm very, very lucky.
Well, I think a good place to start to wind down here, and really the final question I want to ask you before I ask a question we ask every guest to wrap up the show. I'd like to ask you about the moments that taught you a new life was possible. You cite these two moments at the Guggenheim museums.
Yeah.
What they taught you and why was that so important in shaping the way you looked at the world?
Yeah. So it's I won't go into the last chapter because it's my realization that, the saying that every day's a canvas is the last chapter.
Mm.
But in the Guggenheim, the one in New York, I found it's a big spiral building. It's amazing. And if I would have gone flat out in my wheelchair, I'd have really hurt someone and lost speed and probably flipped out of my chair. And at the time, I was in a manual wheelchair. But I was traversing it like a skier. And I was going down, and then I realized that, hang on a minute, everyone around me is looking at all these art pieces and all this thing. No one's getting this experience. No one's interacting with this building like I am. Like, no one is poetry in motion. No one's making their own story the way I'm making my own story at this very moment, at this time. So that happened in the New York one, and then in another one in London, in Bilbao, I was looking at a really famous Jeff Koons piece with tulips. It's just outside the Bilbao um, Guggenheim, and I'd implore anyone to go and visit that building because it's just stunning. The space itself is like just mind blowing what is capable of architecture. But outside the building, there's these Jeff Koons pieces, and they're reflective tulips, massive. And when you go up to the piece, they mirror you in the art. And then you can, like, then I come to the realization that, hang on a minute, this is unique to me now. I'm participating in the artwork itself. And then, like, the photo that I took, and then where, like, it'll never be the same again. No one else is going to take the same photo again. The light's never going to be the same again. The Earth's never going to be in the same point in space and time. The sun's never going to be the same again. Like, and no two individuals that were there, myself and my friend who was with me, are ever going to be um, in that photo again or in that artwork again. So those two moments just really, like, stamps down to me that, hang on a minute, every day can be an opportunity to create and to see life in a new way. So it's humbling, and that's a way of practicing gratitude. And yeah, it's what we've done in this conversation for the last 4 or 5 minutes. We have told stories, created something, and hopefully the people listening to the perspective I've shared and the questions that you asked me are gonna get a little bit of joy or understanding or whatever it is. You know what I mean? They might look at the background and go, "Look at that smug." Can I swear?
Yeah, definitely.
Look at that smug bastard trying to tell me that life's all great in a villa in Thailand, whilst I'm freezing my tits off. But you know what? This morning I still needed to wake up, and someone needed to come in my room to help me get out of bed with a hoist. I still I'm still rubbing my chest right now. It's because I'm in chronic pain. And, like, I'm doing that because it's helping alleviating the pain of my dying neurology, that side. So, you know, understand that my perspective is always two sides of the coin. And that's life, two sides of the coin. I'm smug, but I'm also suffering. And yeah, I just choose to focus on the good side.
Amazing. Well, I think that perfectly encapsulates the message and everything we've talked about and the book. A really nice way to put a bow on the conversation. The last very quick question I'd like to ask you before we let these guys know where they can connect with you on social media and buy the book and everything else. This is a question I ask everyone that comes on the show, whether you're a stuntman, a musician, an actor, a scientist, whatever. I ask everyone the same question, and that is, for David Holmes right now, what makes life worth living?
Um, love, capacity of love, self-love, love for existence, love for my partner, love for the people that I've righted and the people that I've wronged. Like, love and breath, and life is worth existing because it's all we got.
Hmm.
It's all we got. So, like, to try and enjoy the passing of time. And I do my best, despite how hard it is, through the lens of love, gratitude, that I can make the most of the passing of time.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for bringing so much honesty and value to the conversation today. It's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure. And again, thank you so much for bringing so much value with this book and creating movie magic and memories and a safe space and escapism for everyone out there who's been a fan of your work over the years. For anyone who hasn't yet checked out the book but has listened to this conversation, where's the best place they can go to find it and more from yourself?
Online bookstores of obviously the giant corporations that are going to make loads of money. Try and support your local independent bookshops by going in there. If they haven't got it in stock, ask them to order it in. They'll probably have a preferable rate that they can make a better profit margin on, so do it that way. You can also hear the audiobook, which I read myself on Audible. That way it came out like a week and a bit ago. My documentary is in the UK on Sky TV called David Holmes, The Boy Who Lived. If not, you can find it on HBO Max or Amazon Prime. I've got a TED Talk online, and I also work pretty well on social media with Instagram, and I have a team that helps me with it, but they look after TikTok because I don't want that on my phone. But I am on Instagram. You can follow me, David Holmes 83, where I try to project a good image of myself and what it's like to navigate the world with a disability. I will not be seen as a victim. I not see myself as a victim, and I do not like being painted as a victim, despite quite often society tries to do it. So read my book, watch my documentary, follow me on social media. But more importantly than all of that, yeah, just be grateful to be here. You know what I mean? Like, be kind to yourself. Life's hard. Like, do something nice every day for yourself and the world around you. Pick up some bloody rubbish when you're walking.
Amazing. Oh, well, David, thank you so much. That's a brilliant message to end on, and an absolutely brilliant conversation. One of my favorites I've done out of 300, 400 episodes. So it's been an absolute privilege to speak to you. And I will link, for everyone listening and watching, I'll link all those resources David mentioned there. I will link those in the description below. So just click below and head over, check out the book, the Instagram, the documentary, the TED Talk. It'll all be there. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, my friend. It's been an absolute privilege.
Thing is, I actually done Spotify playlists for chapter by chapter. You hit the QR code in the front. You can listen to see my online gallery, which is all my film photos, and also right at the bottom of it, you can see each chapter by chapter. I created a playlist to accompany the chapter for the reader. And even if people are just listening to the audiobook or just want to listen to my taste in music, you can see that music, that was the healing journey that I used after the hard journey of sharing what I wrote in the book. So, yeah, just one of my coping strategies that I decided to share with everyone. So, yeah, follow my Spotify playlist if you are.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that. So I'm a big music nerd myself. So I'm going to go and check that out now when we end this conversation. So that's really cool. I didn't know you did that.
Brilliant. I really hope that I share with you some of your new favorite music, like some great discoveries. And make sure if you like some, really lean into the artist and listen to the whole album. And don't forget, Mac Miller's got a new album out right now. He's passed away many years ago, but that man is still giving us gifts. So yeah, listen to that. Okay, Lewis.
Absolutely.
Hi, mate. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate you, my friend, and have a great rest of your evening in sunny Thailand.
Thank you very much.